Heavy weapons like assault rifles should be considered by the individual states. Background checks on gun buyers should be mandatory. So should gun registration. But the situation will not get any better in Chicago or anywhere else until gun crimes are federalized. And by the way, New York State did pass a tough new gun law yesterday, and it forbids publishing the names of legal gun owners if they object. Take that, the Journal News of Westchester County. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight. President Obama will ask Congress to, quote, ban military-style weapons. Also, he will sign a number of executive orders about things like sharing data and research. President anticipates opposition.
There will be pundits and politicians and special interest lobbyists publicly warning of a tyrannical, all-out assault on liberty. Not because that's true, but because they want to gin up fear or higher ratings or revenue for themselves. And behind the scenes, they'll do everything they can to block any common sense reform and make sure nothing changes whatsoever.
With us now, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida. So where is the president going wrong, Senator?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on tonight on this important issue. Let's remember what the impetus for all this was. It was this horrible tragedy in Connecticut, which, by the way, all of us were outraged by, all of us are sad about, and all of us would want to see never happen again. And by the own admission of the White House, what they've proposed today would do nothing to have prevented what happened in Connecticut or Colorado before that or any of these other places where this has occurred. The issue America faces is not guns, it's violence. I think the fundamental question is what is happening in our culture and in our society that's leading to people committing these atrocities, whether it's mental illness or some other violence or violent propensities that have come into our culture and into our society. Now, what the president is proposing is problematic for a couple reasons, but primarily because it doesn't work. And for many of the reasons you've outlined in the talking point memo tonight, these ideas don't work. It's not just Chicago. Washington, D.C. had a very similar gun ban, and it didn't work. In fact, violent crime and murder and all these things skyrocketed in Washington during the time of those bans. Now, I'm a concealed weapons permit holder in Florida. That means I had to have a background check. I had to be fingerprinted. I had to take a gun safety course. More people should get those kinds of
And you don't
deals.
object to any of that,
No,
right?
I mean, that's
you
the
don't
state
object
law.
to registering the gun. You don't
Right.
object to background check on you. You think that's good.
Sure, and that's
All
the
right.
law in Florida. And by the way, also in Florida, we have something called 1020 life. If a crime is committed in possession of a gun, it's a mandatory 10 years. If you pull out that gun, it's a mandatory 20 years. And if you use that gun, you are away for life, even the first time you commit that. And what's happened is that these criminals that use guns are in jail. They're not out there committing
And
these
so
crimes.
my talking points memo, based on your experience, you don't disagree with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So we have some common ground here, you and me, anyway, and I'm hoping that the folks as well. We want public safety to be paramount. We understand that any gun ban isn't going to work, and it's proven all over the place. And we want to respect the Constitution. So how can we get President Obama on board with this? The only thing that he really did today that I don't think he's going to get through is the assault ban weapon. All right? Now, I say leave it to the states. Right. New York banned assault weapons yesterday, so you can't have them here. You know, I understand both sides of that story, but am I going to move to Florida because of the assault ban? Right? No, I'm not. I'm going to stay in New York. But I don't want that to be nationwide. I want each state, because there are different situations in each state.
Well, and first of all, look, at the end of the day, that should belong to the states to make those decisions, and I would disagree with that decision, but I don't live in New York. I live in Florida, and we don't have that, nor is there a movement to do that. But here's the fundamental problem. We all are outraged by these things. No one ever wants to see something like this happen again. The problem is the only people who follow the law are people who follow the law. Criminals don't care what the law is. They ignore the law. That's why they're criminals.
Yeah, but to be fair to the other side, the anti-gun zealots, I mean, they just want to make it harder to get guns. That's what they accomplished.
Yeah.
But with 300 million on the street already, and then a border that allows the federal government to send guns to Mexico, which is really ironic, it's not going to stop. So do you think, the final question is President Obama demagoguing this issue? Is he demagoguing it because he sees public opinion going in his area?
Well, I'm going to let you in on a secret. I mean, the president is a liberal, and this is part of the liberals' long-time dream for our country. Well, and he sees this as an opportunity to get some of these things done. But you talk about keeping us safe. If someone decides, I need a gun to commit crimes, they're not going to go to the local gun store and buy the gun. They're going to buy it from the black market.
They might. I mean, there's a lot of people in New York, criminals in New York, they drive down to Virginia, they stock up up with their guns and they bring them back, which is why you could make that against federal law, crossing state lines with certain types of weapons, and I wouldn't object to that. But the bottom line is, again, do you think the president's demagoguing the issue? Does he know what we've discussed here? Guns bandits don't work. States' rights should be paramount. Folks have a right to protect themselves. But he's going to demagogue.
Look, I think this is what he's wanted to do his entire political career. He sees an opportunity to do it, and he's going to utilize every rhetorical device on that he can use to get to that point.
Does he really think that banning assault weapons is going to stop mass murder?
I think he believes that. I think he does. But not does he believe that. I think he thinks he believes in this, and he thinks this is a huge bone.
So he's not a hypocrite phony. He really believes his public policy.
Well, I actually think the president, and he just doesn't have the guts to admit it, is not a believer in the Second Amendment, although he states that he is. And that's what I'm saying. If these guys don't, the Second Amendment's in the Constitution. I didn't write the Constitution. Neither did you, neither did he. If he doesn't want the Second Amendment to be in the Constitution, or if he wants to reform the Second Amendment, then have the guts to admit that.
All right. We're going to hold Senator Rubio over because we want to talk a little immigration with him. And what about President Obama's new demeanor? I see a change. We'll see if the senator does. Later, Dennis Miller on Lance Armstrong, and that could get grisly. We're coming right back.